Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so have you ever read a book, put it down for a year or two, and then when you pick it back up, you learn something completely different from it? It's a really common experience, right? Well, today we're exploring a fascinating idea from our source material that explains exactly why this happens. We're going to discover how our own internal attitude totally transforms what we learn, especially when we're approaching profound texts like the Bible, you know? What really surprised me when I was digging into this was realizing that the words on the page, they're only half the equation. The other half is what we bring to those words.
So let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Two different views. 2. The state of the heart. 3. Reading with humility. 4. Using your mind. And finally, 5. A time for reflection. All right, let's dive right into section 1, two different views. A simple story. So, why do we read differently? Have you ever wondered why two people can look at the exact same words on a page but understand them in completely opposite ways? I mean, this happens all the time. One person reads a passage and, wow, they feel like their whole life has changed. They're moved to tears or they make a huge life decision, but then another person reads the exact same words and feels absolutely nothing. They might even just be bored. Why does that happen? The text didn't change, so there's obviously something else going on here. Our source actually gives us a really great example to show this, using two friends, Max and Sarah. So, they were reading the exact same passage in the Old Testament book of Leviticus. This specific section talked about an ancient rule where land had to be returned to its original owners after a certain number of years. Well, Max read this and saw a deeply personal message. He felt this profound call to give everything he owned back to God, realizing that, hey, God is the true owner of everything we have anyway. But Sarah, she just viewed it as a dry historical record of ancient real estate. She thought it was just some old rule for people living thousands of years ago. They read the exact same words, but walked away with completely different meanings, all because of how they chose to view the text.
Moving on to section 2, state of the heart, the problem of pride.
To really understand how our attitude changes our reading, we need to look at the religious leaders from Jesus' day, known as the Pharisees. These guys were the highly trained religious elite of their society. Their education was just incredibly strict. In fact, many of them had completely memorized the first 5 books of the Bible by the time they were just 10 years old. 10 years old. Just try to imagine the sheer brain power and discipline it takes to do that. They literally knew the text better than almost anyone else alive. But here is the fascinating and honestly kind of tragic irony of their situation. They could quote scripture perfectly from memory, but their personal biases and their deep sense of pride completely blinded them to the actual message. When Jesus, the Son of God, stood right in front of them, they entirely missed the point. They were looking for something else, so they just rejected him outright. This shows us a really profound truth. Knowing the words is entirely useless if your heart is closed. Simply having information doesn't change your life if pride is blocking the way. The source material points out that we need to be spiritually discerning when we read. But what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, the dictionary defines discerning as showing deep insight and understanding. Basically, it means looking below the surface. If we open a text and we're already convinced that it's foolish or outdated, we aren't being discerning at all. Actually, we're just confirming what we already want to believe. True discernment requires a real willingness to just let the text speak for itself. To put it as simply as possible, approaching the Bible with an open attitude is what allows you to see the truth clearly. If you treat it like a closed, dead book, it's going to stay close to your heart. You'll only find exactly what you expect to find, which is nothing. But if you open it expecting to learn something new with genuine curiosity, that is exactly when you find understanding. It's like your attitude is a camera lens. A dirty lens ruins the picture, but a clean, open lens lets all the light in.
Let's move to section 3, reading with humility, opening our minds to God.
Our source shares this super powerful insight from the writer Ellen G. White. She says, the spirit in which you come to the investigation of the scriptures will determine the character of the assistant at your side. I really had to stop and think about that when I first read it. It suggests there's a whole spiritual reality happening right alongside us while we read. Basically, if we come with pride, our own negative biases act like terrible assistants, twisting the words. But if we come with a humble heart, it's as if heavenly angels actually step in to help our minds grasp the deep truths we're looking at.
So it really boils down to this absolutely crucial difference in our goals. Think about why people read. A proud person often reads a text just to prove they're already right, or maybe they look for mistakes so they don't have to make any hard changes in their own life. They read to defend themselves. But a humble person approaches it entirely differently. A humble person reads with the specific goal of letting God change them, even when that change is super uncomfortable. They are reading to be molded, not to win a debate.
Now, if we want to truly be learners, the source suggests 3 very simple steps to help build this humility. First, approach with prayer. This is just asking for help to understand before you even start reading. Second, bring childlike faith. Think about how a kid learns, right? They're super curious, totally open, and most importantly, they don't pretend to know everything already. They just want to learn. And third, acceptance. This means accepting that the text has a direct, meaningful message for your life today, rather than just seeing it as old history. I absolutely love this beautiful imagery from the famous historical figure Martin Luther. He pictured the Bible as a giant, mighty tree just full of life. He said he wanted to gently tap at all the branches to see what they offered. He was so captivated by the text that he didn't want to rush past a single leaf or a single piece of fruit. He really understood that every small part held something valuable if he was just willing to look closely enough. What he means by tapping every branch is that we have to read the entire Bible. Human nature makes it so easy to just cherry-pick the comfortable, happy parts that make us feel good, the promises of peace and blessing. But a true learner taps every single branch. We have to engage with the difficult parts too. We need the parts that challenge our selfishness, our daily habits, or maybe our lack of patience, so we can get the full picture of what God is actually trying to teach us.
All right, section 4, using your mind, balancing reason and faith.
Now, having humility or childlike faith definitely does not mean we just turn our brains off and stop thinking. Not at all. It's all about balance. Using our minds means studying hard, looking at the historical context, comparing texts, and thinking clearly. God gave us brilliant minds, and He fully expects us to use them. But we've got to balance that bright intellect by trusting God. That means praying for help, relying on the Spirit, and staying humble. Intellect and trust have to go hand in hand. If you only have intellect, well, you get the proud Pharisees. If you only have trust without thinking, you might end up easily misled. In fact, the source points out something pretty incredible. God does not bypass our intellect. He actively invites us to use it. In the book of Isaiah, God says, "Come, let us reason together." I just found this so fascinating. The creator of the universe doesn't just want blind obedience. He actually values your mind. He's inviting you into a dialogue, asking you to think, to question, and to discover the truth right alongside him.
But even as we use our minds, we've always got to remember our position. Think about it. Out of the vastness of the entire universe, the billions of galaxies, the stars, everything humans have ever built, who does the Creator actually pay attention to? Isaiah chapter 66 tells us that God looks on the one who is poor and of a contrite, which just means a deeply sorry and humble spirit. If you bring a humble attitude and a deep respect for His word, you literally have the full attention of God.
And that brings us to section 5, time for reflection. What did you learn?
We have covered a lot today, so as we close out, I want you to take a moment to reflect on these 3 questions. Number 1, honestly, how do you usually approach the Bible? Are you open to learning, or do you kind of already have your mind made up? Number 2, has the Bible ever challenged you, personally, to change a habit or a viewpoint? And number 3, what is your absolute greatest takeaway from our time together today? I'll leave you with this final, totally provocative thought. If the attitude you bring to a text literally changes what you are capable of seeing, what invisible truths might you be missing right now simply because your heart isn't open to them? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep an open heart.